Welcome to BlackXWulf Entertainment, where ancient legends come alive and untold stories echo through the ages. This is an epic journey of a fallen samurai seeking redemption or ruin. The winds howled like restless spirits as the Ronin trudged through the final stretch of his journey. The once proud warrior, now consumed by desperation and greed, had reached his destination, Kinkatana Mountain, home to the fabled shrine of Kogane. Here, within its sacred walls, lay the blade of gold, a sword whispered to bring fortune to those brave enough to claim it. But every legend has its price. The Ronin climbed the steep path toward the shrine, his feet dragging through the loose gravel as the exhaustion of his journey weighed heavily on him. Every step forward felt like an eternity, each gust of wind a chilling reminder of the trials he had faced. He could still feel the sharp sting of the rival samurai's blade, the echoes of the duel at the Torii Gate still fresh in his mind. Victory had been his, but it came with a bitter taste. He had long since cast aside the ideals of honor for the fleeting promise of wealth. The way of Bushido, once his guiding light, had dimmed under the shadow of his desires. But none of that mattered now. The blade of gold awaited. The Ronin's breath caught in his throat as he reached the crest of the mountain. There, nestled among the jagged rocks and towering pines, stood the shrine of Kogane, its ancient wood and stone weathered by time, yet exuding an undeniable aura of power. The shrine loomed before him, its doors partially open as if beckoning him to enter. Inside, the blade of gold, golden, radiant, almost too perfect to be real, sat upon an altar, bathed in the glow of the setting sun. Its presence was overwhelming, as if the very air around it hummed with untapped energy. The Ronin hesitated for a moment, his heart pounded in his chest. As he stepped toward the altar, the gleaming katana within his reach. The stories had warned of the curse. The merchant had warned of the curse. Even the spirits he had encountered along his journey had whispered of the doom it brought. But how could something so beautiful, so perfect, be cursed? His fingers twitched as he extended his hand. He could almost feel the weight of the gold already in his grasp, the wealth, the power, the restoration of his lost honor. With a single, deliberate motion, the Ronin grasped the hilt of the blade of gold. The moment his hand made contact, an overwhelming surge of energy rushed through him. His vision blurred, his body trembled. The power of the sword coursed through his veins, filling him with a sense of invincibility and grandeur. He had never felt such strength. Every fiber of his being was electrified, as if the universe itself had granted him control over fate. His doubts, his fears, they melted away in the face of the sword's allure. For the first time since his fall from grace, he felt alive. But as the euphoria surged within him, a shadow crept into his heart. A whisper, soft at first but growing louder, echoed through his mind. Power, wealth, glory, greed. The Ronin's grip tightened on the blade. He shook his head as if trying to dispel the creeping darkness. No, he could control it. To control it. The stories were wrong. The curse could be conquered. This was his destiny. He had earned this. Yet, deep inside, the doubt lingered. The Ronin sheathed the blade of gold and turned to leave the shrine. But as he took his first steps away from the altar, a sudden weight pressed down upon him. His limbs grew heavy, his breath shallow. It was as if the sword itself was draining him of his will, of his very life force. The whispers returned, louder this time, more insistent. The power of the blade of gold had a price far greater than any wealth it could grant. The Ronin's mind spun with the realization. His journey had not ended. In truth, it had only just begun. Stumbling out of the shrine, the Ronin felt the weight of the sword pulling him down, anchoring him to his greed, to his desire. The once clear path ahead now seemed fraught with peril. The blade had chosen him, but it was not a gift, it was a burden. He knew, deep down, that the curse had already begun to take root in his soul. And yet, despite everything, he refused to let go. The Ronin stood at the edge of the shrine's courtyard, looking down at the mountain's base. The journey ahead was uncertain, and the weight of the blade of gold was heavier than any debt he had carried before. But he pressed on. He had no other choice. With the cursed sword strapped to his side, he set out once more into the wilderness, his future uncertain, his honor hanging by a thread. The Ronin may have claimed the blade of gold, but its curse had claimed him. What lies ahead is unknown, but one thing is certain, his journey is far from over. Thank you for watching this chapter of The Quest for Fortune continues, but at what cost? Subscribe to BlackXWulf Entertainment to follow the Ronin's journey and witness his fate unfold.